where does Suvayu want to look himself in maybe next few years? I mean, what is your aspiration in this domain? Because I know you're at a very initial stage where you have
Hmm.
achieved really good knowledge about the IM world, and with this, definitely there is so much more that you might be planning to do, right? From
Hmm.
getting a better role or trying to solve really complex problem. So I just want to hear it from you. What is your aspiration?
Yeah. I mean, I have always loved the consulting aspect of uh, cybersecurity, where I love new challenges. I love building system up, from the very scratch.
Namaste. Welcome to the Why Not IM podcast, where we deep dive into the world of identity and access management, exploring the challenges, solutions, and innovations that shape our digital landscape. Today, I'm thrilled to announce and introduce a guest who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our conversation, where he leverages his expertise in customer identity and access management to help organizations navigate the complex challenges of securing digital identities. But beyond his impressive professional background, Suvayu is someone who's deeply passionate about what he does. In our conversation, he shared insights not just as a subject matter expert, but as someone who truly understands the human side of technology. We explored his perspective on CIAM, diving into critical importance of balancing security with user experience, especially in B2B and customer-centric environments. Suvayu has a unique take on the challenges that business face today. Challenges that aren't just technical, but also strategic and cultural. He is someone who believes in the power of technology to not only protect but also empower users, making their digital interactions smoother and more secure. Through our discussions, Shuvai also touched on the evolving landscape of digital identities, the future of access management, and the innovation solutions that are driving change in the industry. Whether you are an IM professional, a business leader, or just someone curious about the intersection of technology and security, the episode is packed with valuable insights. So, without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Suvayu Paul.
Welcome to India's first identity podcast. Why not IAM?
So, where did you start your schooling, and where is your native place?
My native place is around 200 kilometers away from Kolkata, a place called Asansol. It was once the largest hub for steel production, and then had once hosted one of the largest steel companies in Asia, maybe mid of 60s, early 70s. I'm not sure about the timeline. So that's where I have done my schooling, and then from there on to move to another city called Durgapur. That's again a steel city from where I've done my bachelor's in computer science and engineering. And then, started my job in Hyderabad, the very core of the IT city over there. And probably just before the COVID, got an opportunity over here in Kolkata. And then from there on, I'm still here. That's about the timeline till date.
Okay. And how was Hyderabad like? And what was your role when you started first in Hyderabad?
Hyderabad as a city, pretty good, pretty solid. Especially, like a kid just after college going to a new city where there's a difference in the language, there's a difference in the food, and then he's out there not as a student where he is enclosed inside, the guardrails of a college or a school system. Is more like open to the world. He's going, he's earning, right? So that entire shift for me came in Hyderabad. So from
Hmm.
trying to adjust myself to the weather and the food to ending up loving that city, we like I still want to go back over there someday. Being my second home, I call it still my second home. So that city has taught me a lot of things. That city has taught me, I mean, it saw a student grow up into professional. It gave me a lot of colleagues who are good friends now. It helped me start in this corporate world, right? So all the ups and downs and everything that I have seen. When I started as an system engineer trainee. Probably that was the designation that was given. So basically, my role, I mean, if I take probably a couple of months back, I was trained in Fusion middleware. It was an Oracle product, much like how probably MuleSoft works now,
Okay.
right? And then once I was put into the project, and how it happens is, the vacancy that you see currently is what you are mostly put into, irrespective of your, the trainings that goes over there. So that's where I was put into Fusion middleware first, and then I worked a couple of months over there. So this then saw a vacancy in a directory services system called LDAP. So that's where I was
Mhm.
put in. Mostly, I was working on the very L1 level one style of stuff for the first 6 months. And then that's my very start of this cybersecurity domain as a whole. And from there on, to I just picked up anything that came into the picture, and I was very enthusiastically like, I want to do this, and then I worked towards it.
Okay, and was that the first time you got introduced to the world of identities when you said you were working with LDAP, or was it a little later in Kolkata? When
Um,
was that interaction to this wonderful thing happened to you?
Right. I mean, I was aware of the domain as a whole called cybersec, because probably anybody who's coming from a technical background as their education, especially from the CSIT, the electronics domain as well, they're aware of the fact that there is a cyber world that existed. And now with the advent of high technologies that we see, like even the kids are aware of the cybersecurity as a domain, cyber threats. I started working towards that when I was in college, and again, it was mostly like
Hmm.
the stuff that we call pen testing or the red teaming, right? That's what we used to think about cybersec. Coming back to the question, is was LDAP my first step into the identity? I'll say yes, because as I stepped into LDAP, although I was working in just the stuff of LDAP, it was integrated with different identities, right? So, I remember, I believe we had a product called Oracle Identity Manager. That's what intrigued me. So I kept on asking around people that what it is, what it does, and I was very interested to see what is the next of LDAP. So
Okay.
I remember that, just going into the project, maybe just a month, I went ahead and I asked my lead, who was then probably an 8 or 10 years of experience, very experienced guy coming from a development background. So I asked him straight away that what is the future of LDAP, and he told me that until the time that um, identity and access is in
Mhm.
picture, LDAP would be in picture. So that's where I got this intrigue into the domain called identity and access, like what we are doing, what LDAP is doing, what is the bigger picture. Then got into the to touch with the team that was doing the identity management with OIM, learned a few things from them, and then slowly moved on over there. And then, probably a year and a half down the line, I got in touch with Okta. Maybe I don't remember. It was 2018, maybe early 2018 or something.
Mhm. Okay.
We had a humongous shift from one technology to another, and I was like, yeah, I want to work and I want to see, because at our end as well, the lab systems were being revamped into the newer technologies. So that's where I got in touch with the full technology, what happens, how it is done. That's where I also came into touch with the MuleSoft as a software, because I was helping
Uh-huh.
them understand how they should build their APIs, what it should do inside our cases. Then moving on from there on, when I once I moved here in Kolkata, with the big fours. I mean, that's where I understood that there are two different aspects of IAM. One is the enterprise, and other is the customer. And I was very intrigued to work with the customer, because the way I think of a technology always has been. I'm not sure why, but the way I think always is, how do you go ahead and make it sustainable? As in, how do you sell it? How do you justify that this is what it is, and the
Mhm.
client will as well need it? So that's what I see that the customer identity and access management does, because it is not just managing employees, which I mean, like one of my clients once said, it is easier to do EIAM solutions because we are paying the employees, and we can ask them to do the difficult task of
Yeah.
getting the password from PAM and then log in. Whereas CIAM is completely customers who are paying us. So that domain is where how you see a user journey should look like, how ease of use it is, as well as it should not compromise any of the cybersecurity aspect. So that's where I moved to CIM, and then since then I'm loving it.
Okay, okay. So for all our viewers, right, and listeners,
Yep.
can you break down? I mean, there are two aspects that I want to discuss
Mhm.
in the podcast. One is
Yep.
the B2B,
Yep.
B2C, and then we have the customer, right? CIAM.
Right.
So let's start with CIAM. Can you break down what does CIAM mean? Like, maybe to someone who's pretty much new to the IAM world.
Right. Yeah. So, on a very high level, we can break identity and access management into two parts. One is the EIM system, which is the Enterprise Identity and Access Management System. Another is the CIM system, which is the Customer Identity and Access Management System. Now, EIM is mostly what most of us folks who have been in identity for a couple of years maybe have seen it. That's which manages your employees eventually, like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the employees are coming and from their joining to leaving, we have these terms, right?
Hmm.
Joiner, mover, leaver, right? And we keep on the identity folks keep on talking about this. So that's where the enterprise come into picture, where the entire user employee life cycle, I'll call employees instead of user, the employee life cycle is managed from them joining to them leaving the firm. The CIM, on the other hand, is where the companies or the firms who wants to manage their customer identities. An example would be, if you talk about, let's say, Google, right? And then we are using YouTube, product of Google. So we become a
Hmm.
customer to the product, right? So Google cannot come up and say that, hey, we're gonna do a joiner, mover, lever with you. And this is the process, this is where the identity is gonna sink in and stuff, and this is how you log in, right? So if Google makes it way more complicated, first of all, even before we get into complications, um we are not actually employees. So
Yeah,
as we are not getting paid from Google to be in their portal. The other way around is, we are there to use their services, so we are the potential targets.
yeah,
So they cannot come up and tell us to do things in a complicated way, right? Because eventually anyone will leave. And the easier way to understand is, whosoever is using, let's say if you're using an application where the site takes time to load, or the form is cumbersome, or the UI is not good, right? You are like, no, I won't use this. And there will be 1,000 competitors out there, who would be like, hey, we will offer you the same thing with ease. So that's what customer identity and access management is trying to resolve, but inside the identity and access management domain, where you have to keep in mind the psyche of the customer, because they are your customer, they pay you. You have to make things in a way which is not very cumbersome, not very difficult for them to do it, as well as you have to make things in a way which is very much secure, right? Another example probably is, and this would be again a bit technical for the folks who are already into the domain, is, let's say, in you are using some application inside your organization, and then for some reason you get locked out. Okay, you
yeah,
can go ahead and raise a ticket, and then the admin unlocks your account or resets your password, right? The same feature you cannot do with Google. So there's no dedicated admin in Google who's managing your profile out
yeah,
there. It'll be too much of a cost for Google. So you have to, as a CIM architect or as a CIM journey designer, you have to design it in a way where the user themselves can go ahead and unlock them, right? So they'll put in something, they'll get something, and then you verify, and however you design, that depends upon case to case, but
hmm,
the gist of it will always be that the user is doing everything. There is no admin. There is no one from backend, maybe removing a lock, maybe resetting the password. So
You mean
that's,
self-service, right? Mostly.
yeah, these are all like, self-service, and in a way where you are removing the entire dependency from the admins.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So, someone do not have to spend much. Now, again, when I'm talking about this, you also asked about the B2B, the B2C scenario. The one that I was describing now is a B2C scenario where, it's business to direct client,
Okay.
right?
Can you give me one example of a B2C and a B2B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. 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 So B2C is, the one that I was talking about, is as simple as individual people who, you do not have a direct control on, who are your target, or who are either your client, target clients, potential client, however you want to put it. Okay, so we simply will say they are your customers who pay you, or from whom you generate a revenue, however the business sees, right?
Okay.
And is the very best example of a B2C is how you use Google for anything, be it your Gmail, be it your YouTube, right? Be it Google Meet, however you are using. So Google is providing you with application backend. There are obviously identity and access being managed, authorization, authentication, all those things come into picture. But you do not see any admins taking care of anything. You cannot just go ahead and say that, hey, I'm not able to log into my Gmail. Please go ahead and unlock me, or please go ahead and reset. That's all you have to do,
Okay.
however it provides. So that's a B2C scenario.
So
A,
business
B,
to customer,
a
right?
business to customer scenario.
Okay.
A B2B, which is a business to business scenario, is almost the same, but with the difference being that they may be, a business that is using your services, right? One example could be that a business is using the cloud providers, right? So
Okay.
for the cloud providers, the customers who are using their cloud services are not actually their employees, right? So they
Hmm.
do not do this entire employee management cycle, but they also have to provide them with certain additional benefits, right? So let's
Yeah.
say, for example, I'm locked out of my Gmail, right? And then if I'm not able to recover it at all, I'll just move on. And it isn't a loss for Google. It'd be like, one random user that's gone. And they know that they'll again come back, and then they'll have one more account created. But a similar situation with business won't work. So if a business is locked, right, and then they are not able to get it resolved within a very, very short, right?
Mhm.
And you understand, when I say this, Ravi, right? How the criticality of the services that we use,
Yes,
to
absolutely.
build and design. Yeah. So they'll need someone. They'll probably raise a ticket, call people up, right? How whatever the service level agreement is, and then there would be an admin who's gonna go and help them recover their account, help them reset their password, right? So that's a B2B scenario
Mhm.
where I'll give you some control over how you go ahead and do the self service, but I'll also give you an help desk option where
Okay.
the users going I mean there will be an admin that they can go ahead and help out uh, the things with you. So B2B becomes a bit challenge where I have to make sure that this help desk admins have only limited access to
Okay.
what they can do. Yeah.
And why is there such a requirement of SIAM suddenly popping up, right? I mean, I know there are a lot of applications, right?
Yeah.
And which has been serving customers from a very long time.
Right.
And these applications or this authentication authorization were even managed back then. But
Yeah.
I see a lot of companies, right, that are coming up with a very focused SIAM approach, and the different things that they provide, right? The features
Yeah.
around user profiling, user registration, management, device management, a lot of things, right?
Right.
So why do you see there are so much importance given to SIAM, even though this concept was already there from a very long time?
Right. Yeah. And that's a very good question. One reason is obviously, the boom in using digital identity, right? So we all are digital identities,
Yeah.
and we have been using, multiple systems. Now, let's say if, it was maintained the way that it has always been maintained, and I'll give you one small example. Probably, go back to maybe 10 years, 12 years, right? And to change your bank from one to another, mostly, you had to go, you had to fill in a form, you have to find out the next branch where you want to shift, every
Mhm.
all the
Yeah.
details and stuff you have to submit, wait for 7 8 days, maybe go ahead, take a confirmation, has it been changed and stuff, right? Versus you see now, and I won't name the bank, but when I shifted from Hyderabad to Kolkata, it took me 24 hours and a click of a button to shift my branch. So that's where, you know um, the digital identities needed to be interconnected, right? And the control of the things needed to be given to the users,
Yeah.
okay, where their account, their thing, they can go ahead and do. So this is one concept from the business perspective, where I'm making things streamlined. Another concept, which is, I mean, still ongoing and probably will always be ongoing until, and the cyber world is in existence, is you are in control of your data. Okay, so that is one of the premier
Hmm.
thing of customer identity and access management, especially the B2C. So I remember designing solution for one of a life science client, where
Okay.
the customer wanted to have a system, right, in a B2C solution. I'm talking specifically about B2C. In a B2C
Okay. Okay.
solution where
Hmm.
the admins had permission to go ahead and modify accounts, right?
Okay.
But those accounts were actually B2C. It were not B2B,
Okay.
right? So
Customer
that's
accounts, right?
the customer accounts,
Mm.
exact customer accounts, right? So that's this case where I had to go ahead and tell them that, this is again coming from the very fundamental idea of the business wants to mitigate risk where they can. Okay, so let's say if it is your account over here in Google, and I can give Google a solution where, whatever happens to your account is your own doing, if I put it very
Mhm, mhm.
crude way,
Yeah.
right? If I can prove to the world that, hey, no matter what, there could not be any help desk that can go ahead and change Ravi's account, because of which he is now in a lock state, or he is not able to log in. So that's where Google is like, one heavy burden is gone, because apart from that very small number of people who might have access to the database where the identity are stored, and those are very small number of people, so easily manageable, easily tracked, the admins that we talk about, right? Apart from those, nobody can go ahead and change anything in your account. So you cannot tomorrow come back and tell me that, hey, Suvayu, you have changed my phone number, someone else is getting the OTP. Okay,
Okay. Uh-huh.
right? So that's a lesser of a headache on Google's end to prove them innocent, or for any organization per se. I'm not saying that, a particular organization. And that acts as a boon to many banking and financial clients as well, where it is been, the guidelines straight away tells you that it should, I mean, even if you are making any changes to the profile, if there's a provision for that, you have to have a detailed chain of commands, as we say. That's where, if I can go ahead and tell them that, hey, you know what, in this flow, nobody outside can go ahead and change anything. I cannot just go ahead and put my number in Ravi's, and whenever I want to make a transaction with his account, I get the OTP and I make a transaction, right?
Okay. Okay.
So that becomes easier versus,
Mhm.
take 10 years out, go back to maybe 2010s, right? Where there were systems where actually admins were setting, and they could have been, bank employees themselves, who could have gone ahead and made some changes. So you also have that gap over there, and you can all go ahead and tell that, hey, you have done it because you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's where this growth is coming up. It's still picking up. It's still, the business is trying to understand, but we really have very, very good use cases that you can see. And it is from, the ease of use to, giving the users the ownership of their identities, to, probably if you have seen this, I'm not sure, we have this called a device code authentication, which is as simple as, you probably want to log into Netflix or Hotstar in your TV.
Mhm.
You have it in your phone, right? So you can just go ahead and maybe, scan a QR, or maybe you
Absolutely. Yeah.
you go ahead and click a simple link, right? And
Mhm.
it just lets you log in. You do not have to put your user ID and password as. So those are some of the use cases that CIM is trying to solve.
Okay. Yeah. And another one, as you've just mentioned, is also the OTP that you receive on your email ID. I mean, I've seen this recently in Netflix,
Yeah.
where initially to log into any device, you had to remember your email ID and password.
Yeah.
Now they say, okay, send a one-time OTP to the registered email,
Right.
and you'll be able to log in. So again, a very good user experience, right?
Yeah.
So with that, when we are discussing about user experience, is SIAM only improving, or is required for organization to improve their user experience, or do we have a compliance and security side to that also?
Yeah, the compliance and security side is although developing, but it was already in the picture, right? We have the
Mhm.
NIST guidelines, and then again, they are depending upon which domain you are serving. You have the SOX, you have the HIPAA, you have the GDPR, right? So these were already in picture, and ever evolving, should all ever evolve,
Mhm.
because I'll always be an advocate of people owning their own identities. But CIM mostly came into picture for two reasons. One was the ease of use. The easier I can make security for external users or the customer users, right? The better it is for the organization or the application that the user is using. Okay, let's say you're talking about you receive an OTP and you log into Netflix, like, so that is, for example, that is resolving two issues. One is I do not have to remember my password, because I have like n number of applications and
Mhm.
things
Yeah.
that I do. Okay, the other side of it is someone cannot go ahead and take my password and just do a simple login. So you, even if you know my password, and I entirely remove that password segment from you as well, right? It discourages you very fundamentally. It's like,
Yeah.
what will I do? Because your email ID is public. I know your email ID. For some reason, I get your password too, and I'm very happy that, hey, I'll go ahead and log in, right? And while I'm trying to log in, I see that it only asks for email ID and it straight away shoots up an OTP. So that's also one way how you demotivate someone from getting inside your account. That what do I do? I went to Lens to find out these details, but it doesn't even ask. Forget about the MFA options. It doesn't even ask me to enter it. What will I do?
Your
Anybody's gonna
attack
tell.
vector has reduced, right there.
Yeah, your attack vector has reduced. Your you are discouraging someone from the very initial, that you have, like, we as a human being, we want to, like, the efforts that you put, you want to see some reward out of it, right? Otherwise, why will I go ahead and try to
Mhm.
hack someone? Let's say, hypothetically, let's say we are in a world where it doesn't matter whom you are hacking, because you cannot gain anything from in there. So nobody would want to go ahead and attack someone. You have something in your mind before you are trying to take over someone's account, that you want to remove probably a YouTube account, or you want to take money from in them,
Mhm.
right? So there's always a motive, and
Yeah.
that motive, if you start discouraging that with layers, and we have things, right? We have the locks that we do, right? You put in three maybe wrong password, you put in five wrong password, right? You get locked, and then every time you get locked, the lock duration is more, maybe starting with 10 minutes, you get locked, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So this thing came into picture, one of the reason being that the more you wait, you get demotivated,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You do not want to wait for 15 minutes to try again. Then you tried and you failed, and only three attempts I'm giving you, like, hey, guess it in three attempts, otherwise I'm gonna lock you again, right? So it's a similar use case with passwordless authentication, although it needs very strong frameworks, and there are many that's been developed, that are developed, but yeah, one of the fundamental motive is that for CIM,
Okay. Okay.
right? And another motive is, I mean, for companies, because they cannot manage clients as they would manage their internal employees. Right? It's easier to manage internal employees. It's easier to put in stringent policies in place because you get paid, so you are bound to do it. Is kind of the situation. You cannot tell the same to a client. You force me to do something, I'll move on. Right? So that's also where CIM is trying to resolve this.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Suvayu. So we discussed about CIM, the importance of CIM,
Yeah.
right, and like the purpose behind implementing a CIM. So let's move on to some of the products and tools, right?
Yeah.
You have awareness where they are trying to solve a broader CIM issue. So can you
Right.
name few product companies that are actually trying to solve this and which you have used or which you have heard about, which you feel are going in the right direction and they are really improving the user experience through their tool?
Yeah. Um, I'll start with probably the giant, in this space being Okta, right?
Mhm.
Okta has, I mean, I have started my CIM journey with Okta. I have seen it grow until I was there working
So
with
I'll
it.
I'll just pause you here. One
Yeah.
question. When you said you started a journey with Okta
Yep.
from a customer perspective,
Yep.
was it Auth Zero or by the time Okta had bought Auth Zero? Like your
No,
experience.
I started before it bought
Okay,
Auth
okay,
Zero.
okay.
And I recently had this conversation with someone who was like, hey, you have worked in Okta, right? Can you help me? And I'm like, it's before probably Auth Zero was taken over. So I have all the older screen in my mind. So I have to go in and check. Yeah, it was before
Okay.
Auth Zero was in picture because, I'll give you one basic brief for people to understand why we do what we do, right? The problem with cyber security as a whole is, any other use cases that you do is generating revenue, you know right? You develop an application for something because you want to onboard client and that generates a revenue. You want to do something that generates a revenue, right? I have heard this more on cybersec perspective that there are lots of costly tools that you want us to put in, but then I don't know what it does, in terms of revenue, right?
Hmm,
which is
yeah.
true which is true, right? I don't think there are any cybersecurity products which an organization can implement and then they can go ahead and say, hey, we were doing 10 million, now we are doing 100 million because we have implemented this. So I tell this to people, that cybersec, the importance of any tool, pick up anything, not only identity and access management, is you'll only understand that once you have had a mishap. Okay, when it has, then only you understand that how much money it has saved. So cybersec saves you money, it doesn't
Yes.
generate money in a
Yeah.
way, right? And a funny example of it is, there was this client that I was working for at very very starting of my career, and then I was very young, so not much into the place where I could face the client or sit in a level where architecture was getting developed. I mean, decided, not developed. So we get a mail, and it says that the forensics, the cyber forensic team has figured out that there was a backdoor in our system, and there was somebody sitting in our system for at least a month. That is what
Oh,
they said,
okay.
at least a month. Okay. And from there on, it started to revamp, right? We want to
Okay.
remove this product, we want to bring this, we want to bring PAM solutions. Admins cannot get direct access, because previously we used to just go in and put our username and password, right? Linux systems. So you cannot do that. We'll get PAM, the credentials will get rotated and all those systems, right? So that's the very essence of cybersec, that you put in all this everything because you do not want somebody to sit in your system undetected. So you have all the systems around, you want to monitor the login, how users are logging in, you want to monitor privilege accounts, you want to do email security, you want to do perimeter security, right? So there are many things of cyber. And the incident that I'm talking about is what prompted them to go ahead with Okta. So that's where I came into touch with Okta, and I saw how good work their product team was doing. you know
Mhm.
so every now and then they were releasing their connectors. Like, you name an application and they used to be like, yeah, we have the connector ready.
Oh.
just to make fun of it, right? That even before the application could release themselves, Okta used to release their connector. And that's what I keep on telling, that the product team of Okta was working, at least till when I was working with Okta, and I still believe that they still do, is they're very good with designing the product. They're very good with giving the IAM developers stuff that you need to do things, right? Is like probably the best low code, no code stuff that I have seen.
Yeah.
It's mostly no code, right? You just do drag and drop, you just I say that you just wave your magic wand and Okta makes everything ready for you. So that's
Absolutely.
one.
And no doubt they hold around 26-28% of market share even
Ye-
now, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If you see Carter's quadrants, right, they are always on the top right
Top.
corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are all doing that, right? I know there were some mishaps with them, but you know, I just hope that they bounce back. They
Mhm.
do things the way that they were doing things, and unlike their philosophy of, uh, I mean, how they're giving this low code no code thing to the developer at the level best, right?
Yeah.
That, hey,
Yeah.
do this. Everything else is taken care of. It's all abstracted. So that's one. Another thing which I'm recently working and I really love working with is uh, Forge Rock products, right? Forge Rock
Yeah.
Identity Cloud is what I work with. Recently, it's been acquired and it's called, I think, Ping Advanced Identity Cloud. So it is good in a sense where the developer gets to do a lots of customization. So they are like, hey, we will give you a ton of things out of the box, but if do you want more? Do you want to have more customization? Because every use case is different, right? So you go ahead and write your code, do it this way, do it that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of the product that I really love working with. Another similar product is Ping's DaVinci. Even they're very good, kind of similar stuff that they give it with this, right? Apart from this, I haven't come across much of the CIM stuff with any other products out there.
What about Azure? Have you come across Azure?
Azure, yes, but Azure is, it's not exactly how you would describe a CIAM product or how you
Mm.
would want to pitch a CIAM product,
Yeah.
right? So Azure is good with, if you want to manage its own identity, I believe, suit that it gives is good, but I've still seen people, go ahead and use PAM with Azure. But if I'll talk about a product suite that help you design either for your own organization or for the client that you probably are designing,
Mhm.
well, these are the three products that will come into picture. And again, along with this, there are multiple things that are coming up, like, if you have, I believe you have heard about the risk based authentication, right? Where
Yeah. Yeah.
you do a risk assessment. There's an AIML level thing that tracks the user activity,
Yeah.
what user does and not, right? And then accordingly determines the risk. Accordingly, then you can go ahead and write your policies that
Yeah. Ping Risk, Ping Protect does the same thing
yeah,
on
yeah,
the Ping side, right? And
right.
Okta also has workflows
Octo-
that you can use, and then even one login comes up with something called a smart flows, where you can build all these risk levels based on the predictors.
Yeah, exactly. One login to, yeah. And Ping, yeah, Ping, I have used both. With the Ping One Protect, and then I think Ping One MFA is what it does with the MFA stuff. So Ping has a good suit. There's one more product, I believe it's called OneSpan, that we have
Oh.
worked with. Right? So because again, this is entirely customer identity and access management, right?
Mm.
And how we started is that we want you to have the control of your identity. So we do the digital verification as well of identity, right? Let's say if you are joining an office, how you verify is you send your whatever documents they're asking for, and they trigger the background verification on however it is done. But then with the clients, that is kind of a difficult task to be done, and also time taking, right? So there's a thing called identity verification, which is similar to
DG Yatra.
DG Yatra. Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Right, just almost works similar to that. right? So what DGYATRA does probably is it talks to the other database where it verifies you, and then it verifies your picture, right? You have to click a picture,
Hmm.
and then once you are going in the airport, right? You once you scan that QR of the ticket that you have uploaded in your app. It takes a picture of you and it verifies with the picture that you have given, right? So that's kind of an identity verification. One of the scenarios, right? So similar scenarios are over here out there where it's mostly a B2B case where before, let's say you want to maybe onboard an insurance agent, right? So
Uh-huh.
the person's gonna be your agent selling your stuff, right? So he or she is not your permanent employee, right? He's kind of a client, but then he is the one who's selling on your behalf as well. So that becomes a B2B scenario. So now if you want to go ahead and verify, you want to ease the process. So that's where this identity verification with CIAM comes into picture, where you ask them to take their picture, ask them to scan something up, right? And then you do it. I think I'm not sure what is the process now to take a mobile sim in India, but there was ones where you could just go to any of the retail counters. There's to click pictures of your ID card, and then you had to take a picture of a selfie of yours, right? So that's also one example of identity verification.
Yeah, and then you also have this new around along with identity verification. I've also been thinking about identity proofing, right? Again, definitely a form of identity verification where Ping Verify comes up with
Mm,
that model where you
yeah,
just use your mobile driver license or national ID, upload them, scan them, and this is also a case where I'm actually working on, and I've read about improving the security and user experience while onboarding a customer, right?
right.
So instead of finding ways to validate them, right, you simply
Mm,
validate based on the national ID or the driver license. This is where
exactly.
Ping has this Ping Verify, which is again, when you talked about verification, right? I just thought of, because proofing and verification also kind of works hand in hand in these kind of
Yeah.
use cases.
Right. And it is the same case. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just want to verify if that particular, identity is how we talk about users. So that particular identity is, who he or she tells themselves to be. So
Mhm, mhm.
that's what
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
Now, with the product, we started with the CIAM world, the B2B,
Mm,
for all our viewers. Then we went on to some of the implementation, right? Why it is needed. Then
yeah.
the products, right? Now, can you help us with some of the talking about mainly three challenges that you have seen while implementing a CIAM or a B2B scenario or use cases? What are the common challenges that you see?
Yeah, the common challenge, probably the most important challenge which comes with the CIM implementation is the product owners, right? The mindset of the product owners. So,
Okay.
like you said, people mostly come from both, the era and
Mhm.
the mindset, which is of the enterprise IAM solutions, right? Which is more like EIM, although it's way more connected now, but you are always allowed to design a disconnected system
Yeah.
with an assumption in mind that, hey, I know this is a little troublesome for whoever is the user, but they will do it. Okay. So,
Hmm.
they'll raise a ticket, they'll call the help desk. So changing that mindset becomes very, very difficult. Okay. Because they always come with that mindset where you do not own your identity, we do. Okay. So we have our admins, we have our help. Now we have to tell them that, if especially with the B2C scenario, that hey, the use case that you want to implement is this, where the user owns it. Okay. And we cannot do the easy solution with that. And by easy, it means cumbersome and time taking architecture on the user's end, right? We
Can you
cannot do
elaborate
that.
a little bit on that? Like when
Uh,
you say it's actually merged, do you mean that, for example, ideally it should be self-service from a password scenarios and those use cases, but you are always adding an admin to combine both the SIAM and workforce. Is that what you meant?
yeah, although the use case, or the way that it should generally go is, and again I'm talking about B2C, because B2B is still have some leverages. But then the mindset change, what is needed is with enterprise. And again, I was just having this conversation with one of my clients where, she told that somebody told her, from the senior, is when she was moved from EIM to CIAM, is, that with EIM, she's allowed to design a system, right? However way she wants, with primary motto being the security, even though the user experience is a little bit challenging, because we pay the user so they'll do it. So that's a mindset. Yeah, we get salaries, and we are bound to navigate through these challenges. With CIM, that's not the truth, right? You do not pay mostly. Again, I'll say mostly. I haven't come across all the use cases. So I'll say mostly what I have seen is like B2C, mostly you do not pay the clients. They are your clients, and something that either is you are gaining from them and they are gaining from you, or it is they are using your product and that's why they need to sign up. So it's mostly like they are your clients. B2B scenario is also the same, with a little change being they are still your client, but they'll help you, I mean, they'll sell your products. So you still get some kind of leverage with them. But B2C, you completely do not get. And I'll always use the example of Google because they have done things very well with everything, right? You have one account for all their products that you want to use. I mean, I remember previously they used to have different signups. Now they do not have different signups, right? So that's what we call a centralized sign in, sign up. Okay, so that's one of the use cases. So these things we have to let the uh, client know that, hey, you can do this. You might have 100 application, and you can do different signups for those. Okay, and those identities gonna come somewhere over here centralized, and then we can do it, but it becomes cumbersome. Like, if everything is a Google product, why do you want me to go ahead and sign up on YouTube? Why you want to me to, go ahead and do a sign up of maybe something else, a product that you are giving or maps that you are giving, right? Why can't you just sync it? And that was one of the evident questions from which SIAM came up. That is also a thing, a mentality shift that the product owners should do, right? So that's one of the biggest challenge that I have to go and explain them that, hey, you are right, you are not wrong the way that you are doing, because you come probably from a world and from an experience point of view as well, that you have seen more than you have seen how things happen, and that's why today all these technologies have developed and reached where it. Then this change of mindset is also important, that now if you do this, the users not gonna want to stay over there. Users gonna just leave. They'll not want to sign up for your product, right? And that's gonna be a loss of your revenue. Right. So that's one challenge that I have faced. Another is, although let's say for example, let's say um, today YouTube, although being a Google product, is a separate entity as a whole, and they probably be working in a different legal boundaries too. And again, I'm taking this as an example. I do not know how they work, but if that is the scenario, and then Google tells that, hey, I want to do this, okay, where my sign in is same, my sign up is same, but then this user can go ahead and do YouTube SSO, right? Single sign, or can Google Maps SSO, right? So the challenge over here becomes is, how do I know that this particular user has access to those? Because for me, the identity is one, okay, that is residing with me, that has already signed up with Google, probably using Gmail. As simple as that, right? Now, Google doesn't want it to do an SSO if there's no identity present at YouTube. Let's say YouTube has said for some reason, do not let this users log in, or until and unless this user goes through this process and identity verification, you won't let them sign in to us. So that becomes very challenging, where I cannot stop them at registration because the registration is already done, the identity is with me, and the system is such that YouTube is already doing an SSO for the user that it has approved. So I cannot stop that as well. I cannot tell that, hey, you don't do an SSO, right? It needs to do it in a path. So those kind of designs become very challenging, and each design becomes very unique to its own use case. That how do you want to do it? What are the ways that we can navigate this? Some may want that, hey, we are okay if Google has verified, and Gmail has verified, we are good. Some may say that no, we won't do that. You have to do an additional identity verification. So figure out, is this user, and this shall happen on the go, right?
Okay.
There's no backend job that's running, because that's an additional overhead. So they'll happen on the go, where they want to do a SSO to YouTube. We should figure out, hey, this identity does not have the needed permission, did not go through the identity verification. We'll stop them, we'll tell them you have to go through this. We have to take their consent that I want to go or I do not want to go, right? Only then, only if they say that I want to go, we'll initiate it. If it fails somewhere in the middle, will again, if they want to do an SSO, we have to start again. If it completes, only then we'll let them do, right? So all these challenges become very critical.
Okay. Okay. And anything else on the challenges?
I mean, again, it is like, it's mostly the ones that I have came across, but it always is. Every organization work in their unique way, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. That is.
it always becomes important to understand what they want and then design a solution. Or mostly, it's like, for us, it's like a couple of solution, and go ahead and tell them that these are the ways. And again, maybe one more, the important challenge that which is for us is that the security cannot be so stringent that the user do not want. The security cannot be so lenient that anyone can easily break it, right? To strike
Absolutely.
the balance between the both. So that becomes a challenge for us developers, how you not overdo either of the two. You have to just do perfectly well. And I have seen this with a client of mine, where the way that's as simple as the way that they were doing registration, they did their analytics, the way that they were doing registration for the external users, because the form was a bit longer. They saw a drop of 20 to 25, 20 to 30% of signups, right? And this was very legitimate. So they came back to us, and then we helped them redesign their form, as we call it, the registration form, which also meant that I had to go back and redesign the system at our end, right? So that also becomes an important. Now that I have knowledge of that aspect, what I have taken back from that is I already go ahead and tell the application that, hey, this can be a scenario, right? So think on that, and then maybe you let us know. So sometimes the applications are up straight, right? We want you to do this, and we do that, at least on the the user attribute collection or the sign up, whatever they want to show the user. And we have many a times I have seen that they have gone back, they have taken this into serious consideration, they have come back, they have discussed with us that, what you want us to do. So as a developer on the IAM side, we also have to think on that, okay, if I'm tell them that I want to give them this solution, they might come back and ask that how the user experience gonna look. So I also have to keep myself updated on the user experience.
Now that we have discussed all these challenges, right? Like,
Yeah.
again, we are coming towards the end of our podcast, but there are few more interesting questions. One is, definitely a lot of viewers or listeners would have been intrigued, right, with your knowledge and would also want to follow the path that you are into. So,
Right.
can you recommend, if someone is into implementation and they are more into the workforce side, how can someone dive or start learning the SIAM, the B2B side of the world, so that they can enhance their knowledge and again jump into the other side of the world to solve interesting questions? So, some tips for the newcomers into the SIAM or the B2B industry.
Okay. One thing I'll say, at the very beginning, even before someone wants to go ahead and jump to the tools, is if they like the very philosophy of customer identity and access management, and the philosophy comes from mindset, which is that I want to solve an cyber security related problem, keeping in mind the user experience, right? So that becomes very. I mean, it is both very intriguing,
Yeah.
because you are always keeping in mind that how it's gonna feel, how the user's experience gonna feel, right? Also, you are keeping in mind the cybersecurity aspect of, is it okay, can I do this, can I take this leverage, is it too much, right?
Okay.
So now the way that you can you tackle this is the very, I mean, how should I put it, is that whether or not you have that much of an interest to give that much of a bandwidth, right, where you understand how the world is working from customer's perspective, plus how you have to secure. So that takes a lot of time to have that mindset ready and have that intrigueness inside you, where you want to go dig deep, you want to go and learn, you want to
Mhm.
see the systems working. So
Okay.
how it happens to me now is, whenever I sign up for anything new, right? I'll give you one example which probably the
Yeah, yeah,
audience
please go ahead.
might relate over here. Is people want to go ahead and listen to this podcast from maybe LinkedIn, right? What I do not want to do is, do not want to go ahead and do a sign up. I do not want to maybe go ahead and move into a different system, right?
Yeah.
So there are multiple things that comes into picture. So if I have to design a system like this, where I have to play a different domain into my domain, right? I have to make sure that the security is taken care of. I have to see that it is one time link, it is two time link, right? How whatever it is, however the system design it is. So it is always gonna take a toll on your time, on your bandwidth, right? Until you start loving this journey, because it is not as easy as you taking either of the sides, that it is security first or it is UX first. It
But how
has
do
to
you
be balanced.
start with learning cybersecurity? Is there some course that people can start off with? Like, it's not cyber. What should they know in cybersecurity? If I want to start two sides, right? One is the understanding of user experience, and then
Yeah,
the cybersecurity.
right.
So how can someone what should someone learn on the cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is so broad?
Yeah, so I mean, again, there are two aspects of this answer, or two ways that I can answer. One is, you are already into one or the other domain of it, right? So you have an understanding, you have had experience for 2 3 years, you are into EIAM, or you are into pen testing, red teaming, right? And you want to move to CIAM, right? So that's where the entire mindset came into picture, that whether you want to do this, because it's not singularly focused on your technical skills. It also takes into account how much you can think on the user experience perspective, right? And everything, and strike a balance. So that case, if you have a base, you can always, I mean, YouTube is always a great place to learn. You can always do that. LinkedIn is also, you can follow people up there, you can search for people who are into the CIM domain, and you want to do go ahead and talk to people, take their insights, right? So that's the very base of, you are getting, trying to get the flavor of it, whether or not it is for me. And then once you have understood, you have seen what it does and not, you want to dive a little deeper. So that's where as well, products like Okta, products like ForgeRock, I have seen they have their YouTube pages, so that's where they can start. And then there are paid courses as well, right? Slowly, I'll always suggest that slowly, as you are developing and as you need more knowledge,
Mhm.
you go ahead and start paid up courses. Don't right away go for paid up courses, because knowledge is available freely now, right? So use the internet, and then you slowly evolve. Now, coming back to the question from a perspective of probably students just going in, or very new entrants to the corporate world in the technology domain, right? For them, again, it will be the same approach, but then I'll request them to understand identity and access management first, right? And I mean, even before you go deep delving into EIM, CIM, you have to understand what IAM is, how things are done and why. Always, please, always ask the question why, right? Why
Okay.
we are doing. That's what I do, and it, you probably may find some way to do it even better than what is the industry standard is, and you can go ahead and write your own standard. But always ask why we are doing, and that's what, Ravi, when you asked me, right, why CIM when things were already into picture, I have asked him multiple times that why OIDC when Samuel was into the picture, and then slowly dipped it. So keep on asking this, find out courses in YouTube, find out videos in YouTube, right? Probably follow Ravi over here, he's a good guy, get in touch with him. But the gist again is, go ahead, search, understand identity
Yeah.
and access management, see if this is for you, because probably unlike many domains out there, cybersecurity evolves very fast, the attackers evolves very fast, right?
Yeah.
So, today you have learned something and you are like, okay, I'm good for 5 years. I don't think any of the cybersecurity domain can guarantee you that, including this. tools will as well change very fast. So I want to just keep things informed to people who wants to come into identity and access management as a whole. Right. That probably you have learned a tool and you are an expert, but 2 years 3 years down the line it just changes and you have to move to a different tool, a different philosophy, a different framework that you are doing. So you always have to be on your toes to learn and learn more. If you get tired of that, it'll get irrelevant very soon.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what gonna be my suggestion for anybody who's coming. The only difference being someone already in the domain might have some experience, so they can directly pick up a CIAM, EIM, however they want to move it. Someone who is not, please start learning about cybersecurity at a high level. And since you are listening to this podcast, want to come to IIM, so then once you have a broader knowledge of what cybersec does, because you guys might have heard that we are talking mostly about IAM, but when we bring up the jargons like SIEM or email security, perimeter security, is that we have an idea of it.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are bound to know. So that I'll say that any new entrants, please know about the cybersec. It's not just about going and hacking people up, but if you like that, please go ahead. And then if you're interested in identity and access management, come to a deeper delve into that, do understand and see if this is something that you want to do. And then it'll slowly get the flavor and you want to pick your own domain.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Suvayu. So, to end the session, one last question from my side is, where does Suvayu want to look himself in maybe next few years? I mean, what is your aspiration in this domain? Because I know you're at a very initial stage where you have
Hmm.
achieved really good knowledge about the IM world. And with this, definitely there is so much more that you might be planning to do, right? From
Hmm.
getting a better role or trying to solve really complex problem. So I just want to hear it from you. What is your aspiration?
Yeah. I mean, I have always loved the consulting aspect of cybersecurity, where, I love new challenges. I love building system up, from the very scratch. I love to take an approach of a product manager instead of, a developer or a designer per se, right? Where, because there are propositions where we say that we are giving you an IDaaS solution, which is the term for identity as a service,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right? Which is like a plug and play solution, of course, built on some tool or the other, but it's a plug and play solution where you go ahead, we design things, we give the APIs, and we are like, hey, if you want to just plug and start using, you can start using right away, right? So for that, you need to have a mindset of the product aspect, the USP, the selling proposition aspect, that how I can package the thing in a way that if you are an application owner, right, who doesn't have an idea on identity and access management, you go ahead, and you do not even need to know. All I'll tell you is do a plug and play, and you are like, yeah, I'm happy to do this. Right? So that's the aspect I want to explore more. I want to explore the consulting aspect of it more, right? I want to slowly probably look around other aspects of cybersecurity as a whole, right? Where I want to do cyber strategy as a whole. And there are many other aspects that's come into picture where you do third party risk management, right? You try to understand what the landscape is, you try to do regulations, right? I'm not saying that I directly want to deep delve into it, but given an opportunity, I want to work small stints on that, so that when I come back to I come back to identity and access management again, and I talk to someone giving them an advice, so I have an idea of all the components that might come into picture, right? I can talk
Okay.
to multiple owners of different systems at ease, explain them in their own language, right? That, hey, this is what, this is what, this is what. So this is the thing that I want to work towards, moving on slowly, probably pick up a couple more. I mean, I have lesser experience with the enterprise identity and access management work, very small dent. I want to work that as well. So for me, I mean, I don't see a straight path for me. I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a straight path for me ever. I mean, standing here at CIM, if I talk a little like, a year or two, I mean, probably not even a year or two, like 5 years back, if I talk about, I used to pick up anything that came into my site. So I picked up Mule, I picked up perimeter security, I picked up network hygiene, right? And I did that for small stints, like 3 months, 5 months, right? As it came, people ask that, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yes, why not? Why not to try and test it? I have done ITGRC, right? Process improvements for clients. And whatever I have done over there has made me a better consultant as a whole. So now that I have an idea of how probably the GRC team might react, how probably the network hygiene team might react, right? So I can now tell them in a term that they understand. So I want to do that to multiple other domains as well.
Absolutely. I mean, your journey itself speaks volume about the type of work that you've done, right? I mean, as you said, from getting and fixing or designing network, consulting on the GRC side, or then extensively working on the CIAM and B2B. I know you really have a long way to go. As I've said earlier, with your experience, I've seen a lot of guys still struggling around roadmap or getting from a engineering role to a senior engineer role. But you have really proved how an ideal consultant should be, and you really have a great clarity and a vision as to what you will do to improve this work and then accept the domain. So it was a really great experience while you talking to you, learning from you. I hope all the viewers, listeners across in Spotify or in YouTube will definitely enjoy the experience, and they will really get an outlook of what SIAM B2B B2C is all about and how to start their journey. So I really want to thank you for coming on podcast and then helping share your knowledge.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for having me, first of all. Thank you for waiting for me. And I say thank you for not giving up on me. I know there were some hiccups before we came here. But yeah, it's always nice. It's always nice to talk, to someone who has also seen the domain, especially you. I talked to you before, we came to the podcast, and your philosophy of why you wanted to do this, how you want to do this, and your vision of the future. I love the way that you are putting things up. I love the way that you want to lay that pavement for the future entrance of this domain, so that they have an idea of how to do, what to do, right? They are not no wandering around like probably many of us have done before actually figuring out how this domain is and what to be done. So I'm really thankful that someone actually thought that cyber security is not just about me going and hacking someone up, but there's this aspect of it which is very very less talked about. There are probably many cybersecurity folks out there who have not heard about or have heard very little about identity and access management as a whole. Let aside how it differentiates and goes ahead and delves into different aspect of it. So thank you. I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for the wonderful questions that you have put forward. It put me in a position where I had to think and actually give answers to, that's gonna be useful for someone who's listening. So thank you for doing this to us.
I hope we again have future podcasts with you. I'll be very happy to invite you as a guest and again learn from you. Thank you very much, Vayu. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you for having me. I would love to come back again. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you.